Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 4 of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship, now taking place at a virtual Thruxton Motorsport Centre here in Hampshire. My name is Alex Goldschmidt, and welcoming alongside me in the commentary box once again, I have Phil Kinch with me. Good evening, Phil. How are you?
Not too bad. Thank you for having me along once again, Alex. It's a pleasure to be here and to see what fun we can have this evening.
Yes, so round 4 here at Thruxton is going to be a pretty fast-paced affair with average speeds around about the 110 mile an hour mark, as we have 19-degree air temperature, 19-degree track temperature. It's a fair weather conditions out there. And the highest average speed ever recorded around Thruxton was back in 1993, when then Williams driver Damon Hill made an average speed of 147 miles an hour. But one of the most interesting things about Thruxton, Phil, is that it only has 12 days of motorsport due to planning restrictions, doesn't it?
Indeed, it doesn't have much motorsport during the year. However, what it does provide is a lot of excitement, a lot of action, considering we're here at the fastest circuit in the UK. Always close racing and an incredible challenge for the drivers themselves as well.
So 2.356 miles, aka 3.793 kilometres. Here are the standings coming into this, and Chris Butcher from Smile Power Racing leads the way ahead of Sancho Simsports. Lewis McGlade, 116 to 97 points. Then it's Mike Bell, the second of the Smile Power Racing Vauxhall Astras, now up into P3 on 94, just 2 ahead of Dan Kell, with Sam Fowler rounding at the top 5, with Matt Richards, Kieran Shanks, Max Tad, Scott Mitchell and Matthew Clipp rounding at the top 10. Interesting bit of a development due to verbal conduct. Matthew Clipp will not be taking part in race 1 and will be at the back of the grid in his Cadan Casual Apex MG. Biggest news that we've had so far, the first sort of race ban in that sort of respect for a verbal outburst. However, at the end of it all, the qualifying results are very, very interesting too, so we might have a look at them in just a moment. But Phil, looking at the qualifying lap record from BTCC last year and the race lap record, Sam Tordoff set it last year on a 1 minute 15.511. We had Josh Cook setting the all-time race lap record last year at an average speed of just under 111 miles an hour on a 1 minute 16.592. So we could see times respective of that here in VMO TCUK, couldn't we?
Definitely, and the connection between those two drivers is that they're both in Hondas. Sam Tordoff in the older Honda, the FK2 version, and Josh Cook in the current FK8 version. So Honda is normally the car to have here in Thruxton. However, we don't have that here as a make in the series, which means even more of a challenge for the guys to push hard ahead and to make sure they can get the best out of the cars in each of the races, with all of the various factors in ballast and well, actually the tyres are a challenge this week because everyone's on the same tyre, which is the hard option tyre for all 3 races, echoing what the BTCC does, where there is one specific tyre for Thruxton because of its abrasive service and the high speeds that the drivers will encounter as they're going through each race.
Yes, especially when you've got corners like Goodwood, Church, Brooklands. You know, they're fast, flat out. You know, they're going to be pushing around 140 to 145 miles an hour. The tyres are really going to be at the limit of adhesion, but also the drivers are going to be really tested here. The top 15 of the standings at the moment: Jack Nichols in 11th, ahead of Ben Willis. Scott Sobick is now being replaced by Mr. Wiesenmuller this time around, so he will be in the 3rd of the Astras. So we hopefully when we see Scott back, he's got a little bit of ground to make up, having not been with us at Silverstone last time out. Ben Hamlet and Phil Morby ran at the top 15. I know that Alexander van der Voorde is not racing with us this evening, so hopefully we'll see him back next time around. And in the team standings, Smile Power Racing have a lead at the moment, 210 points over Sancho Simsports, who have 178. Then it's the trio of SRR Motorsport drivers that have got 163. Then it's Kings Racing, so that's the partnership between Jack Nichols and Scott Mitchell. Frammy Autosport, Cadan Casual Apex, Drake Racing, Morby Motorsport and Team Van der Voorde round out the top 9. So it's going to be interesting over the next 3 races, all contesting 16 laps around the 2.356 mile circuit here, Phil. So as we always know, Thruxton provides that sort of sting in the tail and plenty of excitement to all touring car fans.
It does. There's always exciting racing every time the BTCC goes to Thruxton itself. And also a bit of note here, which works well for the King's Racing duo. The Mercedes have previously have Adam Morgan has gone well in the last few years here at Thruxton, so it's always possible they could replicate that pace depending on how they fare in qualifying. But yeah, Thruxton is always the coin flipper, as I like to call it. It's the one that turns everything on its head. You come into the weekend knowing where you stand. You come out the weekend after 3 normally unpredictable and very exciting races. Yeah, the challenge for the drivers, as I say, high speed at most of the circuit itself, but the Campbell Cobb Seagrave complex will often give a big challenge because that's the first of the hard braking areas, and also in the first of the overtaking areas on the circuit, and also come into the club chicane at the end of the lap as well. If they've managed to survive to get through Church in one piece and defend Brooklands, the club chicane at the end of the lap is also another area that overtaking is rife for as well. So yeah, it's going to push the drivers today, and it'll be interesting to see how they cope with the variables.
Yes, and so after this, in around a couple of weeks' time, we'll head to Alton Park before the half-time break. So we're echoing what the BTCC does in a normal season, and we'll head back to Snetterton in Norfolk on the 300 circuit on the 18th of August. Then the 1st of September, we'll head to Croft. The 15th of September, Knockhill. Silverstone International on the 29th of September. And then the 13th of October, we crown our inaugural VMO Touring Car UK champion at Brands Hatch Grand Prix. What a calendar we've got here, Phil. Just echoing what every Tin Top fan in the United Kingdom loves to see, whether it's at home or at the circuit itself. Obviously, with the current social distancing measures, things have changed for the BTCC. Obviously, there's been some big announcements, which we won't go into because it's been plastered all over social media. But we're here to concentrate on the racing. Now, just coming into this round, there were some really good battles all the way through Silverstone at the national circuit last time. We saw the likes of Jack Nicholls, Kieran Shanks, Lewis McGlade, Chris Butcher, you know, a lot of people. And I think we are about to get things underway with our first race. So obviously they've had qualifying. So in many respects, this is going to be, as you said, this is going to be a real test. We're going to enjoy it. So ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your hats, grab a hold of some popcorn and a beer, because obviously it's 8:30 in the evening wherever you might be, or if you're an hour ahead in Central Europe, feel free to join us and watch the action as both myself and Phil will take you through what is going to transpire. And Phil, 16 laps, it's not going to be easy, as you alluded to earlier, with the degradation, the scrubbing of the tyres. It's going to be difficult.
It is going to be difficult, but it's also going to be fun to see as well. Drivers managing tyres, try not to hit the curbs too hard, and by the end of the race, we'll know exactly who's been lucky enough to take that first win before they have to start dealing with the success ballast that comes in the 2 later races. I'm really looking forward to this.
So there have been quite a few grid drops for race 1, obviously, after what happened. So here's the starting order. It's Dan Kell from Sancho Simsport and Jack Nicholls from King's Racing alongside on the front row. Scott Mitchell from King's Racing, Max Tad from SRR round up on row number 2. Row 3, it's Lewis McGlade, also from Sancho Simsport, and Toby Davis, who was a stand-up performer last time at Silverstone National. He lines up in 6th ahead of Tom Edmonds, Frammy Autosport, and Matt Richards, the latter of the Sancho Simsport cars. Chris Butcher and Robert Wiesenmuller round out the top 10 ahead of Mike Bell and Ben Brown. They round out the top 12. Daniel Slattery and Phil Morby and Sean King and Daniel Hyde round out the top 16 positions. Looks like we've got 25 cars about to take the track here. Ben Willis and the highest qualifier for Team Brit, Max Spooner in 18th, ahead of Sandro Ballesteros, with Aidan Millward from Option 13 Simsport rounding out the top 20. And it's Bradley Brockies, 105, Chris Wilson in the 68, Kieran Shanks in the 16, Sam Fowler in the 27, and then Kostas Avram in the FMP MG6 GT in the number 26. So it's a very long, punishing lap, especially with the full corner commitments that you need through Goodwood, Village, Church. I mean, if anyone has seen a 3-time World Touring Car Champion Andy Prio's lap in a road standard BMW N240i, that was quite impressive. But then you take it up another level here in a touring car. And Phil, quick question for you. Who do you think might be a dark horse that we could be keeping our eyes on? And it's not necessarily the people that are on the front row, is it?
No, definitely not. Although I'm sticking with my Mercedes fact from earlier on, so I'm definitely looking at the Two Kings Racing Mercedes to see if they can make some hay as from the start of the race and see what they can do. Not counting out the Vauxhalls either, so it's going to be difficult to choose. But I'm going to go with a Mercedes to begin with.
Okay. So that could be any one. That could be any of the drivers. That could be the likes of Tom Edmonds, Jack Nicholls, Scott Mitchell, maybe even some of the other drivers, maybe even Chris Wilson or Sean King. As there is that is Chris Wilson going into the pits as Costa Savram lines up on the grid here at Thruxton. So we are just waiting for things to get underway. Drivers under starters orders for race 1 here at Thruxton in the VMO Touring Car UK Championship. And hold on to your hats, it's going to get a bit bumpy and a bit full throttle. So we just wait for the cars to get settled and get ready. The revs will rise on the turbocharged engines here in Andover in Hampshire. Green flag waved and we are off and away, and that's a brilliant start there from Max Stad, who's absolutely shot to the front of the field. Jack Nicholls, and it looks like Dan Kell going side by side into Alon for the first time. And Scott Mitchell's off, Toby Davis is off, multiple cars, and Jack Nicholls has gone hurtling up. Now there's been a major that is a yellow in sector 1 straight away. As Max Tad got he got a Turkington-esque start there, and there is absolute carnage going through Campbell, Cobb and Seagrave for the first time. But Max Tadfield has already managed to try and bolt, but Cal, McGlade and Richards and Wiesenmuller are not too far adrift.
No, he's made a perfect start, putting the rear-wheel drive BMW to its best advantage, which is getting the best start it can possible, although he is being hounded by the three focuses of Kell, McGlade and Richards, so he's going to have a difficult time whilst the car gets its tyres up to temperature to try and put that rear-wheel drive advantage to it. As it stands, Kell's already pushing him as they head towards Church further around the circuit. The three focuses pushing hard, and behind the two Vauxhall Astras working together as well. Slipstreaming's key round here if you're able to make it work properly. And as they come into the club chicane, Tad's already having to find a way to defend before the end of the first lap as the top six start to close up.
Yep, so lap 1 completed out of 16 here at Thruxton, and Max Tad has got a gap of around 0.4 of a second over Dan Kell, Lewis McGlade, Matt Richards. Now here comes Robert Wiesenmuller and Chris Butcher. Jack Nicholls in the meantime, he's kept 7th position at the moment, but obviously his teammate Scott Mitchell all the way down in 24th position. Tom Edmonds looks to have had a moment too. Daniel Slattery down there. Toby Davis went off circuit at Campbell, Cobb and Seagrave for the first time as we go on board. This is with Matt Richards, who's currently competing in a multitude of championships. He's currently the points leader in the E-Team Brit GT3 Challenge that heads to Montreal this coming Friday at 7 p.m. local time, and he's not too far behind McGlade as you can just see how compact the top three are, Phil. It's about 0.6 of a second between first and third place, but Wiesenmuller and Butcher are trying to get a bit of an inroads onto them.
They are, and like I say, trying to work together between the two focuses to make things work. Like I say, slipstreaming is the best thing to do as they come to the fastest part of the circuit at this stage. He says, as Tad slides into club chicane, trying everything to keep the BMW in one place. Again, they're all closing up as they come into club chicane at the end of the lap, and that's helping to close the gap up. So as long as they can stay right behind each other, slipstreaming is going to work really well as it comes to the faster parts of the circuit.
Very much the case, because in the meantime, Wiesenmuller and Butcher got past Richards, who drops down to 6th position. Here's a replay. Now that's the start from Max Tad. Scott Mitchell has got, that's McGlade on the inside, Davis to the outside. Is that Kieran Shanks that was on there, I think? But there's a touch from Toby Davis on the left rear of Scott Mitchell. Sends the number 22 Kings Racing hurtling into the barrier. And then the Subaru also goes off. And that is oh, crikey. So much happening here. That's one of the Astras. Rage Racing gets involved. And that is the number 5. Oh my goodness me. Could you believe that? One of the biggest profiteers of this at the moment is Max Spooner in the E-Team Brit number 63 BMW 125 M Sport. He's up into 10th place already, and he's trying to close on Ben Willis for what is 9th on the road. Great job by Max Spooner. Sandra Ballesteros up to 15. So Morby, Hyde and Brown, they round out what is the top 15 at the minute. on top 14, as that is Wiesenmuller on the back bumper now of Lewis McGlade. McGlade under pressure now for P3. Tad and Kell starting to pull away here, but I think McGlade is the cork in the Wiesenmuller bottle here, Phil. And it's going to be only a matter of time before Wiesenmuller gets past and McGlade goes, well, I've got to let him go. He's faster than me. I'll just keep myself in close proximity to maximise my strategy.
Yeah, Wiesenmuller definitely seems to be the quicker of the top four at the moment, although McGlade's pulled out a gap on him as he starts to push Kell himself. Again, all credit to Tad. He's managing to stay ahead of all of these whilst they're squabbling, and whilst they are squabbling, they're slowing themselves down and giving him some of the break he may well need. However, as they come through to Church, it is a case of Wiesenmuller is definitely the fastest of the Astras so far, and he's definitely going to factor in later on in the race.
Sandro Ballesteros in the number 19 E-Team Brit BMW being hounded now, and that is for position for what is P16, as there looks to be a potential change here. McGlade looking up the inside of teammate Kell, and goes up the inside, allows to get past. That is through the club chicane, start to finish straight. So Lewis McGlade having a good run through there. And Wiesenmuller, Butcher and Richards, this is fast becoming a six-way scrap for the lead. Tad has got a bit of a daylight now. He's just over. So effectively, what is happening is that McGlade is about half a second, well, 4/10. There was a little bit of a moment there for Max Tad. Lost a bit of time in the BMW. The gap went to around 3.5 tenths of a second. So on lap number 6 out of 16, Tad leads from McGlade, Kell, Wiesenmuller, Butcher, Richards, and then we've got Nichols, Shanks, Willis, Fowler, who's just passed Max Spooner. Morby, Hyde, Bell, Brown, Ballesteros, King, Millwood, Davis and Edmonds round out the top 20, all covered by just 25 seconds, as McGlade is trying to hunt down Tad for the lead of the race.
And the laps are reeling off as fast as you can think here. Like I said, we're almost coming up to the end of lap 5 and not far from lap 6. It is just really fast, pack racing, and that's the best thing we like about touring car racing. It's close and it's together. Wiesenmuller's again trying to close on the back of Kell, as McGlade, as he's made the pass, is now looking to try and close on Tad. Tad has a really big moment coming out of the club chicane on the first lap, and that's going on the first final corner, and that's going to help McGlade close up onto him and potentially see if he can have a shot at the lead. Now, wondering if the Focuses are doing a bit of teamwork with the position change. If one of them is faster, McGlade's the faster of the two. If he can work on Tad and try and slow him down, as already he's trying to see if he can find a way around the outside into the complex, and a contact between Wiesenmuller and Kell there, and looks as though that's not done, but Wiesenmuller might well, yeah, indeed he has. He's made it through to third place in a timed move. He's showing that he's not willing to hang around. He's losing ground at the minute.
Yeah, he was actually quicker than both Tad and McGlade. McGlade was actually did a 1 minute 14.930. Max Tad. Oh no, the leaders clash. Tad sent off, and there's massive damage to the left front of Lewis McGlade's car. So Max Tad now drops like a proverbial stone out of the lead. He's going to drop possibly out of the top 10, depending how quickly he puts the throttle down on the BMW. Meanwhile, Kell and Richards look to be working together. Going to try and get past Butcher. Well, Kell's got past Butcher. Richards is trying to do the same, but Wiesenmuller now has a bit of daylight between himself and McGlade, so he can try and close down on the leader. So that was very much a heart-in-the-mouth moment, I think, not just for Lewis McGlade, but also for Max Tad, who's dropped out of the top 10 into 11th place. Here's the move, and they're just coming up to the right-hander. I think this is... that was the slightest of touches. It just unsettled the rear end of the BMW and just pitched him nearly... Well, he's gone through the trees there as Max Tad. So that's really put him on the kibosh, and he's down 11th ahead of E-Team Brits Max Spooner, who's now dropped a position himself down to Dan Hyde. But here is Chris Butcher on the back bumper of Matt Richards. This is for P4. Kieran Shanks, who has won multiple races thus far in the VMO TCUK Championship, is closing up the inside of Butcher he goes, and his next target with the bullseye firmly on the back bumper of the Focus of Matt Richards right now.
Kieran Shanks doing exactly what he did at Silverstone race 1 last time out, preserving his tyres and making sure he starts making progress up the order as the race progresses. So should have picked him as a dark horse, to be honest. Didn't think of that one earlier, but we'll keep an eye on Kieran. Definitely, he's proving that the Subaru is definitely working well once he gets tyres up to temperature. In the meantime, again, McGlade holding the lead. Wiesenmuller isn't far behind him, but as well as that, Kell and Richards working together. Do start to feel that Wiesenmuller's going to get ganged up upon the next couple of laps as he tries to make some progress to get towards that lead, but he may not get there.
Yeah, and in the meantime, great battle on your screens, the main part of the screen. It is Sam Fowler from SRR in the number 27 BMW ahead of Drag Racing's Ben Willis in Drag Racing 85. Yellow in sector 3 there, as I think Fowler's just had a bit of a lock-up going into the corner. So Willis trying to... Now, Willis also has been quite competitive in the earlier part of the season, but Wiesenmuller looks to have broken away from both Kell and Richards ever so slightly to the tune of about 4/10. And look how close he is now. He's taking a very different line. They're going through at around 135 miles an hour. The speed building. They're close to pushing 145. And that was very brave of them. I think that was going through Church into Brooklands as they'll head into they'll head to the far part of the circuit here. But Wiesenmuller all over the back of McGlade. The McGlade is now not getting anywhere to breathe. Through club they come, and it is literally McGlade by nigh on nothing ahead of Wiesenmuller. Kell, Richards, Shanks is closing, and it's 3 focuses against a lone Smile Power Racing Vauxhall Astra here on lap number 10 out of 16. But Wiesenmuller, I must give him credit, is doing a great job. Oh no, Kell goes into the side of him. Kell tries to go up the inside of Wiesenmuller. Wiesenmuller responds. That allows Shanks. Now Butcher's in the back. And then look at Jack Nicholls. Jack Nicholls has been just chopping away at that gap, and he's closing. And you said about Mercedes power here, I think your prediction might come a bit truer, but a little bit further down the order. Now this is Sandro Ballesteros battling with Sean King and Toby Davis. This is a great battle for what is 16th on the road. Davis gets the slipstream on King and gets past. The 23 Mercedes runs wide. 23 Mercedes of King runs wide. That's going to allow... there was a slight amount of contact, I've just been told, there, probably from Toby Davis. So Sean King not having the best run of luck in the Cam Sport car, the number 23, and just behind him, as we look to the front of the field, it is a 5-car train. As now Dan Kell trying to go up the inside of
contact there between Wiesenmuller and Kell.
And they've gone
across the front, start straight.
Yeah, Kell's gone around the outside. He's gone. That's going to be spinning around there from Wiesenmuller, but I think it was 1 of one and 500 of the other as Kell now drops like a stone. And again, the opportunist that is Kieran Shanks goes up the inside of not just Richards as Wiesenmuller runs wide. Contact between the 3 of them, and Chris Butcher, and Wiesenmuller's DNF'd. Wiesenmuller's DNF'd as a result of that contact. Oh my goodness, Wiesenmuller out in race 1. So that has changed the dynamic of the race here at Thruxton. Lap 10 out of 16. Kieran Shanks now has got to chase down like flies on muck, trying to get on the back bumper of Lewis McGlade. McGlade, I think, has very much been the one to stand out at the front of the field, but Kieran Shanks, he had a moment in the first lap, and then we've got a yellow in sector 3. So Shanks closing. Let's have a look at the replay here. So that is the number, I think that is Butcher there. And no, that's Wiesenmuller getting a little bit of contact. And Kell to the outside. And yeah, Wiesenmuller just keeps on nudging the right rear. Spins the focus around. And then you get to the next corner, and then it's Shanks, Richards and Wiesenmuller gets put out to pasture on the left-hand side and loses out big time and instantly DNFs. And we've also had a DNF from Max Spooner, who is running up as high as P10. So back we go to the battle between the leaders. Lewis McGlade still hanging on to the lead by the smallest strand of string I think I've ever thought of. And he's only 2/10 ahead, but Butcher's really come into this now that Wiesenmuller, Kell and Richards have sort of ended up falling behind Jack Nicholls, who's now in P4.
And what's proving to be the case is the slightest amount of contact at any one of these corners on this high-speed circuit. It's almost terminal, as we've seen with Wiesenmuller coming off in the complex. In fact, as Shanks tries to go around the outside on club, that's very brave, and Butcher's coming right back at him. In fact, Butcher's going for the inside line and continuing to go as McGlade defends as they come into the club chicane. In fact, Butcher's going for a very... there's contact again as McGlade almost goes round. Shanks comes through. He's going to go and try to get past McGlade for the lead. As I said before, the slightest bit of contact and there's a move that takes place and everyone's sideways because they're driving so hard and so fast. And Shanks goes for the inside line at Allard. He's up over the curb and they're heading towards the complex of Campbell, Cobb and Seagrave. He's on the inside line, and if he can hold the Subaru just towards the corner, in fact, yeah, he's got the lead there, whilst Butcher is fighting with McGlade for second place. And if Shanks can start to build a gap, again, I think we could see another win on the cards for him.
Oh, I've lost count of the amount of times that number 16 Subaru has actually won races here thus far. I mean, I'm just going to have a quick look. He's taken 3 wins so far. 2 at Brands Hatch, and the first one at Silverstone as McGlade fends off Butcher for P2. And as you said, Shanks is now pulling away. Nichols is not too far away from this second and third place battle. But he's actually losing a bit of ground, if I'm honest with you. Gap now is around about 2.5 seconds between third and fourth place, and Matt Kell trying to make a resurgence. Here's Butcher and McGlade going side by side, heading into club. Butcher to the outside, as we've got another yellow in sector 3, as a bit of a late break there from Lewis McGlade to keep the focus in check. As there is Sam Fowler, who's got past, and there is another of the E-Team Brit cars. I think I didn't quite catch the number. But Fowler now gets past Kell for P5. SRR having a bit more of an easier run, apart from Max Tad, who's now DNF2. Back to second and third place. As Kell now on the back bumper of Jack Nichols for P4. The Mercedes doing a fairly good job at the moment. We have seen some great flashes of brilliance from both Jack Nichols and Scott Mitchell in the Kings Racing pair so far this season. And there is Phil Morby and Ben Willis. This is the battle for 8th place, so it's Boxer Engine versus Boxer Engine. 2 Subaru Levorgs going to have a better run at it, and Phil Morby hasn't been able to get a double-digit points finish so far. His best ones were actually at the first and third races at Donington Park. He goes grass tracking. I think that's good if you're going to do American Rallycross, but not here in TCUK, I'm afraid. So I think that is Max Spinner. We just briefly clapped eyes on there. That is the car that is stricken, unfortunately. We go on to the final 2 or 3 laps here at Thruxton for race 1 here at VMO TCUK. As now, that is L, Fowler and Richards. They are all scrapping away over 5th place. Richards looking to the outside to get the cutback through Campbell, Cobb and Seagrave. But it's been pretty equal in some cases between the front-wheel drive and the rear-wheel drive vehicles, unless your name is Kieran Shanks, Phil.
Oh yeah, he's definitely proving to be the class of the pack with the Subaru, as we watch Fowler argue with the focus of Kell. What this has allowed as well is for Nichols to build a slight gap and try and get away from these 3 whilst they've been squabbling, which again is the aim of the game. If you're fighting between each other, the guy in front can happily break away. But yeah, it's been honours even between the front wheel drive and the rear wheel drive. Saying that, Kell has made a real gain on Nichols through Church Corner. It looks as though he's going to try and see if he can make a pass into the club chicane. Nichols defends as we come into club. There's contact between the 2 focuses, and in fact Richards seems to go off. Fowler's trying to stay on the inside and riding the curbs as we see Richards come back on, and it looks as though Fowler's still defending as they're on their way into Allard. Nichols again has managed to get himself a break, and if he can stay ahead of these 2 whilst they're fighting for places, he's definitely on for a good finish. Very close racing between Kell and Fowler as they come into the complex, and Fowler holds on in the BMW, but the Focus is looking to try and come back, and Kell showing the nose of the Focus as they come through to the final corner of the complex, and then Stump making their way towards the faster parts of the circuit.
Yep, so Fowler still keeping Dan Kell at bay. Great battle between the pair of them as they go through Noble into the right at Goodwood. And it gets a bit tail-happy, does the BMW. Oh, Kell was looking up the inside. Oh, bit of a tank slapper there for Sam Fowler. Manages to keep it planted. Great little save there. Cat-like reflexes from the number 27. SR Armour Motorsport as the car drifts sideways, going through into Church and then into Brooklands. But that was a great catch there by Sam Fowler, wasn't it?
It was definitely, yeah, to be able to keep hold of the car at those speeds, especially a rear-wheel drive car as well. The slightest tap to a rear-wheel drive touring car and it will normally go around like a top, but he's managed to keep that in one piece, and if anything, he's trying to close the gap down onto Jack Nicholls in front of him for fourth.
So we're on to the final lap here of race 1 here at Thruxton for round 4 of the 2020 VMO Touring Car UK Championship. And it's been brilliant action all the way through. We've had incidents and allegations. We're probably going to have hints and allegations behind after this race, but it's been absolutely fantastic all the way through. Sam Fowler now closing on Jack Nicholls for what is P4. And at the moment, Kieran Shanks has another lead, a comfortable lead of around 3.3 seconds, as Nicholls just fending off Fowler at the minute. Will the BMW have the legs on the Mercedes? It's Stuttgart versus Munich. And at the moment, yep, Fowler's got up the inside of Nicholls for P4. There's Chris Butcher in third. And Dan Kell looking menacing on the back bumper of Jack Nicholls in the Mercedes. Number 29 Kings Racing have a little bit of battle scarring there on the left rear quarter panel, or the left rear corner of the car. Very shortly, we will see that Kieran Shanks will take another victory, his fourth so far. Considering the fact he wasn't with us at Donington Park for races 1, 2 and 3. Round the final corner, the checkered flag waves for Kieran Shanks from Frammy Autosport, and the number 16, Lewis McGlade, will take second position. And it's a run to the line between Kell and Nicholls takes fifth by a whisker, by 0.112 of a second. As Butcher takes third, Fowler takes fourth, Nicholls fifth, Kell, Willis, Morby, Richards and Hyde. That is your top 10. Aidan Millward takes 11th ahead of Ben Brown. So it looks like we've also had Max Tad and Bradley Brocky. So 2 E-Team Brit cars retiring. The third of which is Sandro Ballesteros, who takes 18th at the flag. Scott Mitchell will finish in 19th ahead of Daniel Slattery. Here's Sean King taking 17th in the Cam Sport 19 Mercedes A45. But Shanks, McGlade and Butcher are your top 3 for race 1 here at Thruxton, as we get set to go racing once again here for race 2 out of 3, and it will be another 16 laps. But Kieran Shanks wins race 1, head of Lewis McGlade, Chris Butcher, Sam Fowler, Jack Nicholls, Dan Kell, Ben Willis, Phil Morby, Matt Richards and Daniel Hyde rounding out the top 10, and they were all covered by about 18.5 seconds. It just shows the quick nature of the circuit here at Thruxton Motorsport Centre in Andover in Hampshire. Phil, just some of your highlights from that race, mate.
Oh, I'm just going to take a breath for a minute. I've been holding it for the last 16 laps. That's been really, really intense and also very exciting. The pack racing definitely working out. And as I said, some of the contact there radically changing the shape of the race. At one point, you've got Max Tad leading and putting the rear-wheel drive advantage to good use. And then before you know it, contact's out the way and you've got the Santo Sports Focuses coming to the fore. Really feeling for Robert Wiesenmuller as well. I definitely thought he was on for at least a podium finish in this first race, and I hope to see more if he can make his way back through the grid in race 2.
Yeah, which will hopefully be coming up very, very shortly. Another 16 laps here, the 2.356 mile circuit. But Kieran Shanks takes a 4th win here. 19 degrees track temperature, just a dip in the air temperature with fair weather all the way around this fantastic circuit here. 2.356 miles, 3.793 kilometres. Myself, Alex Goldschmidt and Phil Kinch, your official VMO Touring Car UK Series commentators, along with Simply Race's very own Mike Yao, our broadcast director as well. But again, we've only got one option tyre here. We've got the hard only here at Thruxton, which is, as you said earlier in the broadcast, full reminiscent of what the BTCC does. And it's a classic track. It was originally constructed for those wanting a little bit of nostalgia here. The British Touring Car Championship first visited the circuit here in 1968, and 26 years before that, it was originally constructed as a site known as RAF Thruxton for both the RAF and also the US Air Force during the Second World War. So it's got a lot of history. It's very much steeped in tradition, a bit like Silverstone, isn't it? With that sort of army or military link, isn't it?
It is definitely, and again, it proves that former airfields or current airfields even make some of the best circuits, as we've seen with Silverstone as another example as well. So it really does prove to work incredibly well with any form of racing, and it's also a case of plaudits to the fact that the actual circuit itself has been kept up to safety standards, has seen improvements recently. There was a lot of improvement to Church Corner a few years ago after some of the big accidents during the BTCC races there, and also newer pit buildings being built up to try and modernise the circuit itself. But having been there myself, the viewing as a bystander, as a spectator at the track is just absolutely wonderful, and seeing those cars in action at high speed at a circuit like this is just amazing.
Well, you've had some well wishes from your good lady, Mrs. Kinch, on Facebook saying, knock 'em dead, Mr. K. Well, that is what you need in terms of spousal support. Obviously, Nikki recently celebrated her birthday, so many happy returns, Nick. Good to hear that she's keeping well. And obviously, Phil and I are on regular communication, such as early this morning when someone was working from home and someone who's actually furloughed from his day job.
Yeah, we keep in touch a lot. It's good fun.
Exactly, and it's a pleasure to have Phil alongside us. And I think really, I'd like to confirm something now. I think, Phil, you're up for the rest of the season, aren't you, mate?
If you're willing to have me and Mike's happy to have me along, then I'm very happy to come back and complete the rest of the season.
Well, let's make that official then. I'll be joined with Phil at every single round of VMO TCUK for the remainder, all the way through to October. So there you go. A bit of official breaking news here, but for those that don't really know of Phil, you might know of him as a particular group manager, but we're not going to mention it here because obviously it's not the category that we're looking at. But Phil, just for those listening at home or watching at home in Sound and Vision, a big thank you to Simply Race for doing that. What was your first memory of motorsport? What was the first circuit you visited? And what was the first category you saw?
So the first circuit I visited was Snetterton, and it's a bit of an unfortunate date, but it's my very first visit to the British Touring Car Championship. It was at Snetterton on the 1st of May 1994, back when Snetterton was in its older configuration before the improvements for the 300 came along. Mm-hmm. And I was absolutely wowed at seeing what I still call Class 2 touring cars then, before we went to Super Touring, but the likes of Tarquini, Radicic, Winkelhock, Menu, all flying down the Revit Straight. I found a seat halfway down the Revit Straight where it was safe to spectate from, and just sat and closed my eyes listening to the cars going past. I was sold. Unfortunately, it took a little while longer. My next visit to a circuit after them was in 2011, so it took me a little while to get back into it. But again, every time I'm at a circuit, every time I'm trackside, I just love the sounds, the noise, and the smells. It is absolutely brilliant.
Exactly. I think the first ever circuit that I visited was Brands Hatch, 1980s, and we just missed out on Formula One qualifying. We ended up watching the Formula 2 race at that particular point, and I was hooked. And I can't remember what age that was. That must have been in the mid-80s. I'm kind of showing my age now, aren't I? Really?
You are, yes. But we'll leave that there.
We will leave that there. But I think from both of our perspectives, for those that do know of us, we do love our touring cars, irrespective of what class it is. And just to see how ultra competitive it is in VMO TCUK, that there's no stone unturned. There's no quarter given. And it's always that way, isn't it, in touring cars? As they say, rubbing is racing, but then don't take out your teammate is another golden rule of touring cars, isn't it?
Exactly, and it's one of the reasons why I love touring car racing so much. Added to that the cars almost look exactly like their road going counterparts, and that was a big thing for me as a child growing up. When I discovered the BTCC, watching it on TV, was being able to pick out the cars I liked, watching racing on the telly, and then the following on the Monday going to school and seeing those on the road as well. So that's a big thing for me. But yeah, it is close, hard racing. Every driver is always on the limit, pushing for the last tenth, the last hundredth of a second they can find, to be the best. And because of that pack racing, that close racing, and the excitement and thrills that comes from it, as well as the contact, which, for a non-contact sport, there's a lot of it, we love and enjoy as fans, and it's just brilliant.
Now, obviously, from both our perspectives, we have been involved in real-life motorsport for a little bit of time. But obviously, with sim racing having been, I wouldn't say a replacement or a substitute, it's been sort of like the go-to amidst what has happened over the last 3.5 months. How impressed are you by the realism of the way these cars look, the way they dynamically handle around the circuits, and obviously with the way the circuits looks too? Because I was rather gobsmacked when I started sim racing commentary, sort of say, late March, early April.
I had a little bit of experience with sim racing myself, not my actual self taking part, but my younger stepson had a go at this about a year or two ago himself, and I was just really wowed by the level of detail, the graphics involved, the level of detail working on things like car setup, and understanding the various success ballasts depending on the series you're racing or the particular sim type you're using as well. But it's the fact of you can have an almost replication of the real life racing as close and as fast as it is in the sim racing world as well. It's just absolutely impressive. I've been keeping an eye on sim racing, as you say, over the past 3.5 months as it's been going with various different categories, and it just astounds me whether you have sim drivers or real life drivers taking part, the differences that are highlighted there, but also again, the level of detail, the amount of hard work that goes into making sure you've got the most competitive car that you can race with in that particular category. It's just really, really impressive to see. And again, it's great to see it getting so much more awareness and exposure over the last 3.5 months because of the situation we've all been in.
Yes, very much the case. I couldn't really disagree with you there in any way, shape or form, because the amount of people that have gotten involved, big names within motorsport, the pantheon of motorsport was well and truly having their eyes open. And I think not just for us that were within motorsport, but also the fans as well. And I think, as you say, the amount of hard work that these drivers put in, irrespective of their credentials within sim racing, but I see, like, say, for example, we've got people that actually commentate and also write about motorsport in a professional capacity. We've got people from the real world, like Toby Davis, Tom Edmonds, I know is a senior Rotax driver. Lewis McGlade, obviously, was at Le Mans 24-hour Virtual as one of the sim racing commentary team, expert team alongside Chris McCarthy. So there's a lot of different variation in the people from different walks of life, but it just shows how sim racing can bring people together at what has been quite a difficult past few months.
It's been a brilliant way to bring people together. It's been a really popular form when you consider that motorsports managed to find this way of filling the gap as such over that period of time. It's been really good to see, not just, like you say, the real life drivers getting involved, the sim racers getting involved, but other people outside of driving but involved within motorsport themselves. So as I can see, we're getting ready for race 2.
Yeah, looks like we're going to get things underway right now. So your grid for race 2 will be Kieran Shankson's Lewis McGlade on the front row here at Thruxton. Looks like Jack Nicholls will start in 5th place alongside Dan Kell. Ben Willis and Phil Morby round out the top 8 positions here at Thruxton. Matt Richards and Daniel Hyde will round out the top 10 ahead of Aidan Millwall and Ben Brown, who complete row number 6. We then head to Tom Edmonds and then Toby Davis, 2 names that I was just mentioning a moment ago, ahead of Mike Bell and Costas Avram, who round out the top 16 positions. And then it's Sean King, Sandro Ballesteros, Scott Mitchell, Daniel Slattery, rounding out the top 20. We head to the back part of the field here at Thruxton. Chris Wilson, Bradley Brockies, Max Tad, Max Spooner, and then we get to our 25th and final competitor very, very shortly. No, I think that is it. That is 24 cars on the grid here at Thruxton.
does look as though we've lost Wiesemuller, which is a great shame after his early performance in race 1. But I am sure that once again we'll be wowed with another exciting race now with added success ballast from how the first race started. The first race finished even.
Yeah, exactly. Well put there, Phil. 60 kilos for the car on pole position, which will be Kieran Shanks. So Kieran will not have the greatest of opportunities, but we have seen it before where he has not been able. He's been able to get away from other people as a result of just the amount of power in that Subaru. So, gonna wait and see what happens here for race number 2 out of 3 here at Thruxton, and let's wait until the green flag does wave. Wait for it. As we're just waiting for now. Yeah, looks like we've got a couple of cars out of position. So we will see whether they might make sure that, see if those cars get back into place. So 24 cars on the grid. Thanks from McGlade, Butcher, Fowler, Nichols, Kell, Willis, Morby, Richards, Hyde, Millward, Brown, Edmonds, Davis, Bell, Avram, King, Ballesteros, Mitchell, Slattery, Wilson, Brockies, Tad and Spooner. That is the 24-strong grid. And we just await for us to be able to go racing for 16 more laps around here as the green flag waves and we are off and away heading into LR4 for the first time. Shanks gets a good start, McGlade alongside, Fowler to the outside, Butcher's on the inside, and Butcher's trying to push his way through. Can't get past on Shanks just yet, and McGlade gets towards the inside, towards the outside heading into Campbell, and then at the moment McGlade has position for the minute as it is Fowler and Butcher swapping places. There's a yellow in sector 1 already as the field makes its way through Campbell, Cobb and Seagrave for the first time of asking, and Shanks has got a good 4 to 5 car length lead ahead of Lewis McGlade as we head through into Goodwood, the right-hander for the first time.
And already Shanks, as you say, putting that to good use. But we see, as we saw before last time out at Silverstone, he really started to suffer with the 60 kilos of weight on the car. And already McGlade is closing on him, and Butcher is also closing down as well. So it could be quite the case that Shanks may have to play the defensive role as they come through Church and make their way towards the club chicane. He may well have to play defensive for the first couple of laps until he's able to get the car into a position he likes, or find himself under attack from McGlade and Butcher.
Right, Nichols has dropped all the way down to 22nd. Davis and Hyde are battling away for 9th place. Davis gets ahead in the Astra. So number 34 making some progress up the field. So I think Jack Nichols, he is on track. Max Spooner, unfortunately, has DNF'd in the very first lap of the race. So whether there was an incident a little bit further down the order, cost us Avram down to 18th place. So at the moment it is Shanks, McGlade, Butcher, Fowler, Richards, Willis, Kell, Morby, Davis, Hyde. That's the top 10 as Morby goes up the inside, sends it like a good one, as that is Willis and Kell battling away over 6th position. Davis gets back up the inside of Morby. That was very, very brave, and he gets 2 whiz. Oh no, Dan Hyde gets a little bit of a touch there, I believe, and that might have been from Bell in the number 5. That was the case. So Hyde drops down. He's going to be out of the top 15. He might be out of the top 15 very shortly if Max Tad has anything to say about it. But at the front of the field, it is a 5-car scrap between Shanks, McGlade, Butcher, Fowler, and now Matt Richards in the tow of the number 27 from SRR Motorsport here on lap 2.
It's the focus is to the 4 again, and once again we've got some pack racing. It's absolutely brilliant to see 5 racing for the lead as Butcher closes on McGlade while Shanks tries to see if he can survive not being attacked through the club chicane before they come to the end of lap 2. Fowler is doing a really good job in the BMW. They're showing some more competitiveness compared to how they were going at Silverstone last time out, so it seems to be working out better for them. And once again Richards is in the mix as well. So the familiar names from race 1 that made their way forwards by the end of race 1 are already fighting for race 2, and to be honest, Shanks is already looking as though he might be the cork in the bottle. I could soon see some contact taking place as we saw in race 1. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how we start seeing positions change on this high-speed circuit.
Well, one of the names that was up at the front at the sharp end of the field was Jack Nichols. He is in the pits, as is Daniel Slattery. So numbers 29 and 24. Good to see Scott Mitchell. He's up to P15 now from pretty much the back of the grid. Round about the just outside of the top 20 as Mitchell and Tad now swapping positions. Sorry. Yeah, so here's a replay with Jack Nichols, and that is... Oh, my goodness me. So he's dropped it on the grass. Car started to understeer. Nichols has gone wide. Oh, and it's sent it off.
And yeah, that's at Church Corner as well.
Oh, side
Yes.
on. Side on into the barriers.
That's not somewhere you want to go off Church very fast and very difficult. And unfortunately, Jack's just caught himself out by a touch on the grass at high speed, and that's where the understeers kicked in from the car, unfortunately. So it is a big shame for Jack, who did really well in race 1. Was hoping to see him do better in race 2.
Yeah, that was at around about 130 miles an hour through Church that he lost it, and that was a big one. But McGlade still keeping Shanks very, very honest. We've got another yellow in Sector 1, as looks like Willis has gone. So we might have a replay for that. Here it comes. And there are 2 E-Team Brit cars, and there is a Rage Racing car in the middle of that. And that was very, very close. Now, who was that? That is the 63 of Max Spooner. Max Spooner involved there, the 63. And that was one of the Rage Racing cars. I think that might have been Daniel Slattery. So Nichols is in the pits. Spooner is effectively DNF'd. Aidan Millward from Option 13 Simsport is out too. They are sort of dropping like flies a little bit in the early goings. Lap number 4 out of 16. Shanks has got nearly half a second over McGlade now. But McGlade looking to be a bit closer in the braking zone as they come through the club chicane. Butcher's really kept himself in some sort of good position here, because let's not forget, Phil, coming into this round, he was at the sharp end. He's actually leading the championship by 19 points coming into this round ahead of Lewis McGlade. And McGlade, I think, has closed up that gap slightly through what happened in race number 1. But Butcher now just deciding, I need to go for the consistency. I need to make sure that I hit every braking point, every apex. I need to power out of the corner correctly. I don't want it to put 2 wheels on the grass on the fastest part of the circuit like Jack Nichols has just done. It is a case of just managing the car, mechanical sympathy, even in a virtual sense.
Exactly. The consistency is the aim of the game in touring car racing, where you've got success ballast involved, and it's making sure you bring the points home. And Butcher is doing exactly the right thing. He's shed a little bit of weight for race 2, and he's making that work as he stays within the top 5 cars chasing for the lead itself. Well, it looks as though Sean King's actually gone quite wide at Church as well. Another Mercedes going off in the background. Yeah,
Scott Mitchell, who's on the main part of your viewing screen at home, as Dan Hyde gets a bit tail happy in the MG. Mitchell up to 13th now, closing on Ben Brown from Camsport in the 77, running with the Anxiety UK livery. Oh, Phil Morby mounts the curves like a good one. He's trying to go rally crossing yet again in that Subaru Levorg GT. It's not 4-wheel drive, Phil, I'm afraid. You might get a bit tail happy going round the corner, but not 4-wheel drive like the rallycross cars will normally have. But Mitchell looking really racy here. He's sizing up Brown for a move, and this time around, I don't think he'll get something done quite yet. But through the complex here, Scott Mitchell looking really, really purchased at the minute, isn't he?
He does, very focused, pushing hard, and also making sure that he's keeping to the line as best he can through the high-speed corners. The Mercedes is often described as an aerodynamic brick, but it works really well at Thruxton, as Scott's proving, as he's made his way up from the back of the grid at the start of the race up to 13th. And it is very possible that he could catch up to Brown. In fact, he's closing the gap as they come through to Church. Brown defends on the inside, and Mitchell is well placed. In fact, he's got the inside line. If he can keep that momentum, as he has done, he's up alongside, and if he can stay on the inside line coming into Club Corner, then that's 12th place that he's staring at.
Dan Hyde's just gone off. He had a moment a couple of seconds ago. Sorry to cut across you there, Phil, but he's just had a tank slapper heading towards through Brooklands and into Club. So there's a yellow in Sector 2 now, but Dan Hyde has dropped down to 18th. He was running behind Mitchell and Brown, so he would have been in 14th position. That means that Sandro Ballesteros is the leading E-Team Brit car in P14. 15th place is Costas Avram. Then it is Chris Wilson, Sean King, Dan Hyde, Ben Willis, and Bradley Brockies rounding out the top 20 positions. And the way things go, Sandro Ballesteros could be the first E-Team Brit driver to score points on the board after their debut back at Brands Hatch. So it's not been easy for the E-Team Brit drivers. They managed to come on board, and obviously they've been around since late last year, late 2019. Sandro Ballesteros is actually their youngest driver, just 13 years of age. He's on the autistic spectrum, and he does compete in karting and uses his autism superpower to help bring out a really good message about how autism can be helped through the use of motorsport. And I've known Sandro and his dad Tony for quite a few years now, and they're great people, and it's good to have Sandro as part of the series. And he's actually been passed by Costas Avram, as I've said that, but I will be honest here, Phil, Shanks is not getting away as much as people might have expected in that Subaru.
No, and Fowler's also having a go at Richards for 4th place. In fact, they're side by side as they've come out of the complex. It now puts him on the inside. However, he's going to lose out further at the next corner, which is Noble. And indeed, both Richards and Kell go past Fowler as they take the inside line. They're heading themselves now towards Goodwood, and Fowler's staying in as Toby Davis now closes in. He's been making progress as we've seen through the field, and it's definitely a case of seeing Toby attacking. I think Fowler's actually having a go at Kell, so they have the run down to Church itself. Very close quarters indeed. In fact, Kell's having to defend from Fowler, and Davis will be there to capitalise as well as Richards breaks away and makes a gap. Fowler's gone around the outside. He's looking to try and go in the outside into club. I would be really impressed if he can pull that off. He's not been able to, unfortunately, but he has kept close to the Ford Focus as Toby Davis in the Vauxhall Astra closes up on Fowler as well. This is not done as they go into lap number 9.
No, just looking at the lap times now, Kell just did a 1 minute 15.994, Sam Fowler a 1 minute 16.850, and Toby Davis was obviously quicker on that particular lap in its own right, but he loses a bit of ground there going through Campbell, Cobb and Seagrave. But that Astra in the hands of Davis is really looking a bit more formidable, and we saw those flashes of brilliance from Toby last time out at Silverstone National, especially in race number 3. But it didn't really go his way at the end of it all, where there were a couple of incidents, and he got a grid pace penalty for race 1 here at Thruxton. But Davis is really starting to come alive a bit more, and he's doing a really, really good job at the minute.
He's doing really well. So the Astra is a stable car. It's a very good car to have. Aerodynamically, it's very slippery through the air with the hatchback shape, so it works well. Although he's lost a little bit of ground coming out of Church and gone a little bit wide. But yeah, he did really well at Silverstone in the last 2 races of the meeting and showed some progress before some unfortunate luck. And yeah, if he can keep in touch with Fowler, he's definitely looking on for a good top 10 finish here.
Jack Nichols has just exited the pit, so I think probably a bit more track time ahead of race 3. As here is Scott Mitchell now up into 11th position, as he's now going to close on Phil Morby. So Mitchell looking to make some inroads as the Mercedes comes through Allard, now heading into the left at Campbell, Cobb and Seagrave. And here is Lewis McGlade battling with Chris Butcher, and the pair go side by side. McGlade clashes into the right-hand side of Butcher, and just behind are Richards and Kell. And again, it's about the game of numbers, isn't it? Sancho Simsport, all 3 focuses are like 3 little ducks in a row, or 3 blue Ford Focuses in that occasion. And they're doing what they need to do, but they're taking... Oh, no! Kell's just lost it, and Fowler nearly went with him. So Kell lost the back end of that Focus coming through the corner, and nearly... Fowler became a cropper as a result of that. McGlade to the outside of Butcher has got the inside run through Brooklands. This is side by side, and Fowler's. This is great work. Again, McGlade trying to do his best. McGlade trying to get past. Richards is now up ahead. Toby Davis now in 6th place behind Fowler, who bumps through the curbs through the Exeter Club. And again, this is just what really defines touring car racing, and we're getting it here in TCUK.
It's brilliant. I think you actually saw as Toby Davis goes by coming out of Allard as well. He's using every piece of track and grass available to him. I think Butcher had a moment coming out of on the way into Church, and that led to some of that contact taking place there as well, and also left him open to Richards himself to be able to get past. But again, Fowler is pushing McGlade hard for 4th place, and Toby Davis is still in the mix there. He's not too far off. He's able to make that ground up on the second half of the circuit, the faster part of the circuit in the Astra, as we see a replay. So yeah, you can see it looks as though Fowler closes right up. There is a slight touch between the two focuses in front. The one behind, the third of the focuses, has a really lurid moment coming through on the way into Church. Further contact there, and unfortunately sees him come off and back onto the circuit. So yeah, the focus is definitely in the mix as they're playing at the moment.
I think he's going to need a new pair of virtual Nomex after that, unfortunately. But he did set the fastest lap of the race earlier on, a 1 minute 14.4313. Toby Davis has been running in the 1 minute 14.4s, the high 14.4s, and again he's closing. This is the thing that I think we're going to have. You said about dark horses. Toby Davis is the multicoloured dark horse right about now. As moment for Butcher through Cobb. Oh my goodness, and there goes McGlade up the inside, up into P3. Butcher, I think, just went a bit too hot into that corner. Davis goes off the circuit, but he still has a bit of distance between himself and the recovering Max Tad. So there are 2 SRR BMWs as Butcher back up the inside. Great move by the 65 on the 78. So really good move there through into as we go towards Village and into Church. That was a great move there from Chris Butcher to really seize it. They go through at 140 miles an hour in top gear, heading through into Brooklands, and Fowler's trying to muscle in on McGlade heading into the approach into Club, and he's going towards the inside. He's got a really good run in the BMW. Can he late break into Club? No.
No, unfortunately, no. You've got to be really brave if you're going to late break into Club and try and avoid some contact as well. As McGlade tries to come back on Butcher, who defends as he comes through the over the control line and into Allard.
So now we have the battle on the main part of the screen between Bell, Morby, and Mitchell, and this is for what is 9th place on the road. And Mitchell again in that Mercedes. Which, for those, if you remember, in the British Touring Car Championship, it's Daniel Rowbottom and Adam Morgan that have been testing out at Snetterton today, along with a whole host of other drivers, including Senna Proctor and Chris Smiley, Colin Turkington, to name but a few. But this has been a really good battle here too, in terms of 9th position, because they're not that far apart, are they, Phil?
No, they're keeping them racing nice and close, and they're able to stay with each other. It's when the move comes, as we see Fowler make his way past McGlade as they come through Church, and as Morby is now trying to get past Bell. In fact, there's plenty of contact there. This is not the place to do it in Church. You want to be side by side, not touching, and unfortunately Bell's lost some ground there as Mitchell now closes up on Morby to see if he can capitalise. In fact, yeah, he's got the inside line for Club. If he can stay alongside, he's braking very late and sliding, and Bell's almost lost the Vauxhall as well. In fact, Morby's lost it into the chicane.
Lost it big time and in the wall. And I saw Tom Edmonds come into there, and Morby drops like a stone after that mistake through Club. He just went in a bit too hot. Scott Mitchell now, as a result of that, ends up in 9th place ahead of Bell, Brown, Edmonds. Morby down to 13th place. So Scott Mitchell was just really, really making a good account, very clean account of himself there, to ensure that once something happened, he was in the right place at the right time. And at the moment, Butcher has now lost out to Sam Fowler. So Sam Fowler really doing a good job. Yellow in Sector 2 as Toby Davis closes back up on this battle for P3. So Davis he looks really well planted as Toby Davis in some of the faster parts of the circuit. Goodwood, Village, Church, Brooklands. He does a really good job. Both he and also McGlade run wide coming out of Church. That's not what you want there, is it?
It's not gone well at all. It's fouler defence from Butcher coming to club. Toby's car is very planted in the second half of the circuit. I was saying earlier, it really looks good in the faster part of the circuit itself, and that's where he seems to make up ground. And again, he's looking, to try and pass McGlade. They're very close as they come through to Allard, and it's really good to see. So if he can keep the car on the grey stuff, which normally works the best, and if he can make sure he can get neatly past McGlade, as we've seen plenty of contact in this race as well, then he's looking good for a top 5 finish if he can.
Yeah, well, what you don't want to do coming through Church is to go all 4 wheels onto the grass at 130 and still keep your toe planted.
No, it's not recommended.
No. I think anyone, whether it's a sim or otherwise, hell no through Church. No. Here's Costas Avram as Phil Morby in that Subaru, again trying to make the tail end snap out, and there is Sandro Ballesteros. So Ballesteros having a really, really good run. We've had another DNF. Unfortunately, Bradley Brockies on lap 12 has retired from race 2. So Sandro Ballesteros looking to be the first E-Team Brit driver to score points. And I think he's done a really calm and composed race so far, hasn't he, Phil? As Costas Avram, he goes wide. And he's going to lose out to Morby. And does Ballesteros go through? Yeah. Avram just pushing too hard there, as here is Max Tad now closing. And it's the Max Tad headlight show once again on Toby Davis. Remember Silverstone, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting a repeat. Ding, ding, round 2 as they go through Allard into Campbell, Cobb and Seagrave. But I think Toby Davis is just looking at a target in front of him as he goes locking up. A little bit of contact between him and McGlade, going through into Campbell and Cobb and then Seagrave. And as a result of that, Max Tad gets 2 positions in 2 respective corners.
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of over-exuberance there by Davis, unfortunately, trying to see if he can get a position on the last lap through the complex. In the meantime, he's tried really hard on that and unfortunately lost out as Tad once again has made his way through with another epic drive.
Yeah, there's Tom Edmonds up into 12th place in the number 15 Frammy Autosport Subaru Levorg GT. He's just behind the 77 of Ben Brown from Camsport, and then Mike Bell in the second and last remaining Astra from Smile Power Racing. Here is Kieran Shanks, and very shortly, as they say, we haven't talked about the leader much, it is 2 from 2 for Kieran Shanks. Oh my goodness me. He's done it again. That's 2 races that he's won at 2 separate race meetings, as Tom Edmonds now up into 10th place. So Matt Richards has taken 2nd, Sam Fowler in 3rd. Chris Butcher will take 4th ahead of Max Tad. Lewis McGlade, Toby Davis round out the top 7 positions. Scott Mitchell recovers from nigh on the back part of the field up to P8 ahead of Dan Kell. Tom Edmonds rounds out the top 10 ahead of Mike Bell. Ben Brown, Phil Morby, and 2 points in the bag for Sandro Ballesteros for his maiden point score for E-Team Brit in 14th ahead of FMP's Costas Avram in the number 26. Here's Ben Willis being chased down by Daniel Hyde, and they will finish behind Chris Wilson. Well, Sean King and Chris Wilson in the numbers 23 and 68. Daniel Slattery will complete the top 20. And Bradley Brockies actually has come back out onto the circuit, but Kieran Shanks, 2 for 2. Dan Cowell gets the fastest lap. And then it is Matt Richards and Sam Fowler. What a race, Phil. Plenty of drama, plenty of contact, but there were some great battles all the way up and down the order.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely brilliant racing once again, and even with the success Balasan added in, I mean, all kudos to Kieran Shanks in being able to keep the Subaru once he got it to the front to stay in the front, and also go on to build a gap as well. Really impressive stuff from him. Really feel, again, another sort of shout goes out to Max Tad himself, having made his way up the grid. As we saw in Silverstone, the lights on, trying to intimidate the drivers. It's something's obviously working there because he's getting the BMW past as many people as possible. And Scott Mitchell, another one I'm going to give a shout out to the drive, he, as you said, from the back of the field, making his way up to a point scoring position. And finally, Sandro Ballesteros, first points on the board for E-Team Brit, especially at a track that's as difficult to race at as Thruxton. It's really, really hard to try and get right. So again, full applause to Sandro on his first points in the series.
Let's see if Bradley Brockies and Max Spooner have a bit more luck in race number 3. We are running a little bit behind schedule. Of course, we do need for the drivers to have a little bit of a warm up, but Phil, I think the words speechless are an understatement right now.
Definitely. I again, take a breath and pause, and it's really
get your heart rate down a little bit from around 160 beats per minute.
Just calm it down and breathe while it's quiet. Now, again, the racing's been brilliant once again. 2 races in a row, really good action, lots of close, hard racing. The odd bit of contact there, which is obviously having an effect and moving cars up and down the order. Again, it's touring car racing. There is always a bit of nudging and contact, especially here at Thruxton. You're always looking to try and get the car through the tiniest gap possible and overtakes. What's really impressing me is a lot of the action going into Club Corner, into the chicane at the final part of the lap. So a lot of people are getting the inside line. They're getting the run from Church through Brooklands and coming up to Club, but they're just not able to keep the nose in front. And instead of just trying to stick the car down there and just go for some contact and send each other spinning off, they're doing it really professionally. They're going side by side. If the guy can't make it on the inside, they're just backing off, falling back in line, and then working again towards trying to do the same thing at the next lap. It's really good to see, instead of saying, you know what, I can just get through that gap and take them out of the way. It's good to see good professional racing happening.
Yes, and some actually making sure that they can come through the field in order to move forward. I mean, obviously, Scott Mitchell was one of the standout performances in that race. Getting to 8th position at the end of it all, whilst everyone else were tripping all over each other. And, Phil Morby, I think that Subaru was more sideways than tracking straight and true in that race, especially through Club, because, mounting the curbs, the tail end snaps out. And as those watching on some of the streams, including those that are watching on the Simply Race YouTube channel, a big thank you to Simply Race once again for providing the fantastic broadcast. A big thank you to our broadcast director, Mike Yao. Obviously, for those wondering about Simply Race, they were open since Saturday, 20% off. So head to simplyrace.co.uk for further information, or you can also head to the relevant Twitter, Facebook and Instagram sites as well. And it's really, I'm looking forward to hopefully being back there very, very soon. welcome back to the fourth round of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship here at the virtual Thruxton Motorsport Centre, based in Andover in Hampshire, with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Phil Kinch, your official Virtual Motorsport Online TCUK commentators. Phil, we've got one more race, 16 more laps of action, and it's been 2 from Kieran Shanks in that Subaru Levorg. What do you think might possibly transpire in the next race that we have, the final race of the evening?
Anything. That's the easy answer.
That's the answer I expected from someone of your caliber, my good friend.
Yes. No, lots of, again, we're going to have, race 3 in any series that has touring car racing is normally the race that everything kicks off. You've got the reverse grid, the random grid draw, you've got success ballast rearranged from race 2, and you've also got people looking to try and end the day on a high and show what they are capable of if they've not had the chance to be at the front yet. So anything actually sort of describes it pretty well for me, but I'm really looking forward to another exciting race to finish off the evening's proceedings. As the guys have been showing, it's a little bit tidier in race 2 than it was in race 1. Race 3, I'm not expecting as much tidiness. I'm expecting everyone just to absolutely go for it and see who comes out on top.
A bit more rambunctiousness then, in other words.
Yes.
To coin a phrase. Yeah, proper good old elbows out. And obviously we've got people watching on the VMO Facebook page. I think even the E-Team Brit Facebook page as well. Simply Race YouTube channel, the VMO YouTube channel. We're also on Twitch and Periscope. So thank you very much for everyone joining us for round 4. Obviously, the unpredictability factor just really, because they're going through warm-up at the moment ahead of race 3, so the anticipation is building. We will be speaking hopefully to the top 3 post race 3, obviously with the fact that we want the drivers to get on with business at hand at the moment in the warm-up. Toby Davis has just done a 1 minute 14.0. 5-1. Aidan Millwall's just done a 1:14.8 flat. So I'm keeping my eyes on the times. So once again, that just shows how competitive Toby Davis has been, especially in the last race, wasn't it, Phil?
Indeed. I really thought he was on for a top 5 despite some of the off-track excursions he was making, but even with those he was able to make the ground back up in the Astra and close back on the guys in front of him. So I'm really hopeful, if Toby's in a good position for race 3, that he'll be able to show off again what he's capable of doing, and see if he can get a better finish. He does seem really well planted in the Astra. He seems really well suited to it. So hoping for good things from him.
Yeah, I think it is a case of maybe third time's a charm here at Thruxton for the number 34 Astra. So yeah, I think there's just going to be a lot of other stuff. Happening up and down the field. It's just really there's so many factors you have to consider here at Thruxton. You can't just look at maybe if this happens, and then you look at another factor and you go, well, what if that happens? And then all of a sudden the cogs in your brain start working, and then you just overload your brain with information, and then you just think, why the heck has that happened?
You've just got to keep the rhythm around Thruxton. Like I say, it is the UK's fastest circuit. Once you've got a rhythm around here and you can get the car working and you've got it in the right place, you are in the best position. And it's just making sure, if you can avoid the contact when trying to pass the other cars, again, that's going to help. But as we've seen, contact's been involved in a lot of the overtaking today. It's a high-speed circuit. The slightest nudge here compared to somewhere like Donington or Brands, which may not have as much of an effect, has a much bigger magnitude at Thruxton because of the high speeds. So you just got to make sure you're keeping it tidy, keeping it on the grey stuff, again, pushing as hard as possible with what weight you've got on board. Tyres isn't an issue because, as we've said, there's just the one option because of the abrasiveness of the circuit. But even then, you've still got to factor in some tyre degradation and whatever success ballast, if you're carrying any, as to how that's going to affect the car as well. So there's a lot going on when you consider that a lot of these corners, these cars are doing upwards of 130 miles an hour plus, whether it's in the sim world or the real world, the same factors apply. So yeah, really big challenge. And so far, the fact that there's been so many finishes in the first 2 races is real applaud to the drivers on how hard they're trying and bring the cars home in one piece, as well as taking on each other and trying to see what positions they can improve on.
Right, looks like we're about to get our third and final race underway in just a few seconds' time. And it is going to be very, very interesting indeed. Who is going to be on the reverse grid pole position as the drivers have steeled themselves? They've had 2 bits of argy-bargy, and here comes round number 3. Looks like Tom Edmonds and Dan Kell are on the front row here. Race 3 ahead of Scott Mitchell, Toby Davis, Lewis McGlade, Max Tad, Chris Butcher, Sam Fowler, Matt Richards and Kieran Shanks running at the top 10. Ahead of Bell, Brown, Morby, Ballesteros, Avram, King, Wilson, Willis, Hyde, Slattery, Rockies, Millward, Nichols and Spooner. So it is Tom Edmonds from Dan Kell. We're about to get the formation lap underway. So it's the number 15 from Frammy Autosport that will lead them around the 2.35 mile circuit. Scott Mitchell and Toby Davis in 22 and 34, that's row 2. Lewis McGlade and Max Tad, row 3. Chris Butcher in the 65 and Sam Fowler in the 27, row 4. The number 4 of Matt Richards and the number 16 of Kieran Shanks round out the top 10, ahead of the number 5 of Mike Bell, the number 77 of Cam Sports Ben Brown. Then it is Morby Motorsports number 14, Phil Morby, ahead of the number 19 of Sandro Ballesteros from E-Team Brit. The FMP number 26 MG of Costas Avram will have Sean King in the 23 alongside. Then it's Chris Wilson from Camsport, Ben Willis from Drake Racing, Daniel Hyde, Daniel Slattery, Bradley Brockies, Aidan Millward, Jack Nichols and Max Spooner. 24 drivers set to go into battle for one last time. The final hurrah here on our only visit to Thruxton before we head to Alton Park Island Circuit on the 21st of July. That will be in 2 weeks' time with myself and Phil returning in the commentary box. So again, Phil, still all to play for. Could we have the first ever triple race winner here this evening? If
Great
Kieran
minds
Shanks,
think alike.
yeah, I think if Kieran Shanks does a number on everybody, and with the performance of the Subaru, but if now I know Tom Edmonds, he is a race winner in his own right in real life, and to be able to have that opportunity to be on the reverse grid pole position for race 3, that will help him no end, won't it?
It will. Again, the Subaru being a rear-wheel drive car and seemingly carrying the weight well from what Kieran Shanks is showing in the car himself. Edmonds has got a real good chance to be able to show off here what he's capable of doing if he can get the car off the line well. Saying that, I'm not ruling out either Scott Mitchell or Toby Davis either as well. Ones to keep an eye on to see if they can improve on their first 2 races performances and see how they go. But if Edmonds can get the best start off of the line, then he's going to be one to watch to see if he can build a gap and what he can do from there.
Yeah, let's see what Sandro Ballesteros has to say in this one. Just 13 years of age, based out of Rochdale. He lines up 14th on the grid, and there is our final car. Max Spooner in the 63, not been a good race for the E-Team Brit team manager, and he's got Bradley Brockies just up ahead, and alongside Max Spooner is Jack Nichols, the number 29 Kings Racing Mercedes. Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get things underway here. One final time at Thruxton. The green flag waves and we are off and away. Brilliant start by Tom Edmonds, and Scott Mitchell tags the wall on the right-hand side. Was there a little bit of contact for the Kings Racing? Number 22, he drops to 5th at the moment. There's plenty of argy-bargy going into Allard, and then the run down to Campbell for the first time. Through into Campbell, Cobb and Seagrave, and Toby Davis, goes sideways, trying to control the Astra. Completely goes off circuit. Comes into the path and smacks into the side of Max Tad. That is a domino effect. Mitchell up to P3. Davis all the way down to P5. And he managed to save that. My goodness, Toby Davis must have been absolutely wrestling with a direct drive steering wheel at home.
I want to see how he managed to get away with that. That was impressive stuff. And the fact they're all still going as well. We don't seem to have any retirements so far as they make the way through Goodwood and on the way to Village and Church. Really impressive stuff. The fact that with Davis going off, you've still got guys managed to avoid it, but also with contact, still keeping racing. It's really important to be in a good position. As Morby gets a touch from Richards and is set on the inside of Church, I was speaking to soon. In fact, he's come back across the tracks. I'm hoping he can try and get that back underway or go on the inside. Meanwhile, Jack Nichols is running on the inside of Ballesteros. Can he pass him into club? Will this be? In fact, he's done it as well. Yep, Nichols is through and up to 15th place whilst it's all happening at the front.
Kell and Davis going door panel to door panel. They are not giving any quarter. Nichols up eight places up into P15 from P23. And Aidan Millward's already DNF'd before we've even got the race really going. Scott Mitchell is in P3, and he's only, look at that gap he's got between him and Max Tad there, Phil. 0.4 of a second. That's brilliant pace, and it's going down. It is going down. Mitchell is looking really, really racy. And one of the biggest things here is Tom Edmonds is not getting away. Here's a replay, and that is with Jack Nichols. That is with... Now, who is that? Is that Dan? That is Dan Hyde, possibly? Yep, that is the case. Yep. As Nichols goes up the inside of Ballesteros. Oh, and there's been a touch between the pair. Hyde's gone off. And Morby has been clobbered into by Aidan Millward. Millward was unsighted. Yep. Smacks the Subaru like a good one. Front bumper absolutely ripped away from the BMW. Well, I think half the engine's been ripped out, and it's an instant DNF. Oh, not a great one for Aidan Millward. And Phil Morby in the pits. Meanwhile, the battle for what is second position on the road is quickly heating up. Look how racy Toby Davis is in the number 34 Vauxhall Astra. He's trying to push Scott Mitchell. Mitchell not giving him any quarter. So great defensive job by Scott Mitchell, who I know, who I've known since around 2012 from his days in the British Touring Car Championship. We joined a particular website at the same time. I was with one touring car series, and he was with the other. So he's a good bloke. Now based in Stockholm in Heyesferia. So he's been over there for quite a bit of time. Works in the F1 paddock. Here's another replay we're going to see, and this is the touch for Morby. So Morby gets touched, and that was from Richards, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Matt Richards.
Now this is going to hurt. Here, wait for it.
Ouch.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
that's not good.
I couldn't really put words to that at all. That was just absolutely gnarly. And up the inside goes Kel on Davis. So Kel now fancies an opportunity at putting a warning shot across the bow with Scott Mitchell. Max Tad now has a 1.1 second gap between himself and Tom Edmonds, who could be on course to make it two Frammy Autosport Subarus that actually make it to the top step. Where is Kieran Shanks? He's down in P10 at the moment, and he's closing on Matt Richards in the number 4 Sancho Simsport Ford Focus. So Shanks making a few moves up the order. He's only about 5.4 seconds from the leader, but he's still showing a really good pace. He's about 0.3 of a second behind Matt Richards. Lewis McGlade just up ahead. Fowler in 7th. Butcher in 6th. Behind Davis, Kell and Mitchell. Mitchell still holding on to 3rd place at the minute, but Dan Kell looking to be that little bit closer as Toby Davis sets the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 14.398 on lap number 4.
Yeah, Shank's doing a really good job. We know he can run with maximum ballast in both races, and he's taken race wins. So now his biggest challenge is being back in the pack as he closes on Matt Richards as they come out of church. He's already trying to see if he can get the slipstream, trying the outside line into club. I'll be surprised if he can pull it off, but I'm not taking it as taking any sort of advice on that, as Richards is slightly sideways, allows Shanks to close up as they come towards the start of lap 5. He's pushing the Focus hard as he tries to see if he can take 9th position away from Richards. Again, on the back bumper as they go through Allard, he's lining up for a remove, if possible, on the inside of Campbell. We'll see if he decides to pull out. In fact, he does. He's looking to go through. Lots of curb on the Subaru. It's one way to try and do it. Richards defends, and then Shanks tries the crossover, doesn't make it work there. Come out Seagrave, again pushing Richards really hard, and he's got the inside line potentially for Noble if he can get alongside. He's not able to, just tucks back in. It's obvious he wants to get past. He's really pushing hard. I don't think it's going to be long before he's past Richards, but this is definitely one that's going to involve some contact as they make their way on towards Club on the fastest corner of the circuit. Again, the rear-wheel drive car's doing really well with Edmonds leading, and then Tad improving on his position from race 2, staying in 2nd place and keeping in touch with Edmonds as Shanks goes wide at church. Yeah,
that was a big runoff from Kieran Shanks, just pushing really, really hard, just trying to close up to those up in front. So, yeah, Shanks, as you say, is really making Richards very, very honest here as they go through Club Corner. The gap between Edmonds and Tad now 1.9 seconds. We'll make that nearly 2 seconds. Scott Mitchell rounding out the top 3 still, and he's got a bit of daylight. He's managed to break away from Dan Kell in the 89. Toby Davis is about 7/10 of a second behind Kell in 5th place. It's Butcher, Fowler, McGlade, Richards, Shanks. Jack Nichols has made up a further 2 positions. He's up to P13, starting from 23rd. So a big gain for the number 29 Kings Racing Mercedes with the 22 of Mitchell, currently circulating in P3. And I think what you're seeing now, again, is that McGlade and Richards, because they've got a bit of distance between themselves and Kieran Shanks, who went wide a bit earlier on, they're now going to start to tag team against Sam Fowler. And Fowler, out of all the SRR Motorsport cars, has been the fastest one. And obviously, let's not forget, they were down to 2 after the last time out. So they've got a lot more work to do. So Sancho Simsport have a bit of a numbers game advantage, but it's not working out to their favour here in race 3.
No, you haven't got all 3 focuses running together. In fact, it looks as though Kell was actually pushing Mitchell as they were coming into the club chicane at the end of the lap. But they are working together when they're running together on circuit. Richards looking to defend from Shanks, and this is the thing: if you can divide the attention, do the divide and conquer trick, Richards will have to defend, and McGlade is looking to see if he can try and get past Fowler. It looks as though Phil Morby's gone off in the background there as he come through Allard. So they've got domination in numbers, but they've got to try and make that work, and it's not an easy thing to do here when you're relying on slipstream and as little contact as other. Whereas Kell here is chasing Tad as much as he can now. He's closing the gap very slowly, having gotten past Mitchell, who's down to 4th. Toby Davis is still there running in the top 5 as well, and if Kell can get past Tad, I wouldn't be surprised if he can try and close down the gap to Edmonds, to see if he can try and get a front-wheel drive win today, which we haven't had yet so far.
Yeah, it's both. It's been 2 for 2 for Kieran Shanks, and Edmonds could make it an all rear-wheel drive clean sweep. But as you say, yeah, Kell looking very racy. He actually did his last lap was a 1 minute 14.764. Tad did a 1 minute 15.036 as they come through club. And I wouldn't discount either Scott Mitchell or Toby Davis in this, because if Kell starts battling with Tad, Mitchell's going to come back into this. Chris Butcher has silently come out of nowhere, and he's now closing on the back bumper of the number 34 Astra. And it is sometimes about playing your cards close to your chest. And now that Kell is sizing up Tad is going to be able to try and read the situation as best he can as they come through Campbell, into the left at Cobb, and then through into Seagrave. Bit sideways there from Tad. Kell's knowing that he can smell a bit of BMW blood there. But Mitchell, really, I think we've seen this from Scott Mitchell in race 2. He saw, the incident between a few other cars up ahead, and he managed to profit from it. So if Scott keeps that kind of tactic, there is no reason why you can't discount him. As down to the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you see Jack Nichols closing on Ben Willis. This is for 13th place. So Jack Nichols, it's around 140 they're going through in towards Goodwood there. So Jack Nichols in the 29 Mercedes, keeping it very well planted through Goodwood, now into the right at Village, and then through into Church. So Nichols really, again, showing some great fight backs through the field. But Tad and Kell have now got a bit... Mitchell. Oh, a little bit of contact. Yeah, Davis got a little bit of contact on the right rear from Mitchell. This has allowed Butcher to seize the opportunity and seize the day. Carpe diem, as they would put. And Sam Fowler's got in the mix too. Mitchell to the inside. And he's gone up the inside of Fowler. Through into Allard's. Oh, my goodness me. And then we've got... Lewis McGlade. He's now factored into this too, and he's gone side by side with Mitchell through Campbell, gets the inside run for Cobb, makes the move through, 2 wheels on the curbs. So Scott Mitchell was in for a podium position. He's now dropped down into P8 on lap 9 out of 16.
Yeah, he's lost out with the contacts as they came into Club Chicane at the end of the last lap, unfortunately. It looked like Toby Davis was looking to try and line up a move on the Mercedes. The slightest bit of contact, and it's completely rearranged the bottom half of the top 5 as Davis goes wide, coming through Church. In fact, I'm hoping he comes back on. Yeah, he makes it back on alongside Mitchell and McGlade. However, it looks as though Kell's also managed to get past Tad as well, as Phil Morby goes wide, coming out of Church and through Brooklands. Again, doing a bit of the grass tracking. It's like I said before, the slightest touch on this high-speed circuit, and it really does make a difference, and it's reshuffled the top 6 at least.
Make that the top 8, because now Toby Davis is back down in 8th position. Mitchell has got past in the Mercedes, and he's closing on Lewis McGlade, and now we see the battle again between Kel and Tad. Now, this is for P2. Now, we have seen it before, Phil, where leaders do tangle, and as I say that, Tad goes in a bit too hot, and that allows Butcher to get through, Fowler to get through, McGlade, Mitchell's nearly on the back bumper of the 35, and oh no, that's not going well for Max Tad, who's doing really well against Dan Kell, battling away for second position, but now Tad has dropped again like a stone. Mitchell being closed in on by Davis, going through Noble into the right at Goodwood, and now Mitchell trying to close on Tad, who's on right up the rear exhaust pipe of the Focus of McGlade. And here comes Mitchell once again. He's up the inside, and that's a great move from Mitchell up to P6. So Scott Mitchell starting to resurge a little bit now that he's got the second wind in his sails as Tad runs wide. And that was very, very close indeed, but kept the foot planted as they head through to Club Corner.
It was good stuff. Unfortunately, Tad sort of let himself down with the contact, and then the BMW getting sideways coming out of the complex at the start of the lap as he makes contact with Mitchell, but it doesn't seem to come off anywhere, and that leaves him open to Toby Davis coming through, and also to Matt Richards trying to see if he can come through as well. In fact, Davis has got the inside line for Allard. Richards is staying on the curb. It's pushed Tad on the outside onto the grass as well. He's sideways in the BMW, and that's slowing him down. So as Davis makes up another position, Richards also benefits from this as well, and unfortunately Tad is losing positions in the same place he was at the this time last lap.
At the moment, Tom Edmonds and the number 15 Frammy Autosport Subaru Levorg GT has a lead of around 3.3 seconds ahead of Dan Kell from Sancho Simsport. Now here's a little look again. Yes,
it's contact on the inside.
Yeah, it was just like I think the fact is that Tad just went into it way too hot, and Kel had his number quite literally and knew what to do in order to keep himself ahead. And here is Davis ahead of Matt Richards. Max Tad trying to get back into the thick of the action. So Kel now 3.5 seconds behind Edmonds as we're on to lap 11 of 16, and Mitchell is actually closing on Lewis McGlade. Again, Mitchell just moving forward. The Mercedes is coming back in the latter stages of the race, whereas some are starting to falter a little bit. And that seems to be the case with some of the BMWs, including Max Tad, as he's literally sideways going through Allard's and coming through the exit of it. And the car nearly breaks traction the other way to the right-hand side as Davis and Richards exchange a little bit of paint swapping once again through into Campbell. And that allows Tad to go around towards the outside of Davis, powers around the outside up to the inside through Seagrave, and gets the move done on the 34. That was some contact between the pair.
Yes.
Oh no, Davis is he gonna tag the barrier? Oh, he does.
Yes.
Spins it around, pirouetting goes the Vauxhall Astra and the BMW. That is their races done in terms of getting a potential top 5 finish, as Tom Edmonds still keeping it nice and easily done in the Subaru Levorg lap after lap, as very shortly we'll be on to having completed on to lap number 13 out of 16, and as a result of Davis, Max Tad is a DNF after that collision. Toby Davis rejoins in 14th place. Jack Nicholls up to 12th place. Scott Mitchell currently in P12. So let's have a look at this replay, shall we? Okay, Tad powers around the outside of Davis. No touch yet. They go through the right at Seagrave. Through towards Noble they go. Davis gets a good run. Little tag from behind, and he keeps his foot stuck in. And they both go spinning out sideways. Passengers in both the BMW and the Vauxhall. And before you know it, wait for it.
There's the pain.
Bang. Yeah. And Tad instantly out on the spot.
Yeah. Edmonds is doing, while all this is happening, Tom Edmonds is doing exactly what he needs to do. He's got it off the line cleanly. He's built a gap. Everyone else behind has been squabbling. I will be really surprised if Dan Kell can close the gap to him. I don't think that's going to happen. Commentators curse, we hope not. But Edmonds is doing the perfect job. He's just keeping the Subaru in a calm, controlled manner, using it to the best of its ability, and just stabilising the gap as we see Constance Avram and Ben Willis fighting with each other for 10th place as Willis, as they both come through Club and head towards Brooklands. Avram on the defensive, but that's going to get him a little bit slower and offer Willis the inside line. If he can keep the Subaru alongside, he can't, but he's opted for the outside line. That's not always one that's going to work going into Club. Avram's able to defend, but Willis can close up on the switchback. So again, tactics, just trying to stay as close to the car as possible and maximise the advantage. And right behind Willis is Jack Nicholls in 12th position. With several laps to go towards the end of the race, it's not possible Nicholls can close up the gap here and continue this really good comeback drive that he's been able to put together so far.
Yeah, so we've had 3 DNFs as Costas Avram gets a little bit late on the brakes there, going into Campbell, into Cobb, and as you said, Nicholls is not that far adrift. He's about less than a second behind Ben Willis in the Drag Racing 85 Subaru Levorg. But I'm also keeping an eye on McGlade and Mitchell because they're battling over P5, so Mitchell could get a top 5 finish here. Nicholls has done a fantastic job. Millward, basically his engine was ripped asunder from the front of the BMW from earlier on, so he's out. Max Spooner is out. Max Tad is out. Phil Morby down in 22nd position. Fastest lap of the race still in the hands of Toby Davis as Nicholls and King swapping positions now for P12. So King ahead of Nicholls. No, Nicholls returns the favour. Mitchell is now losing a little bit of time to McGlade for P5 as Edmonds now has a comfortable 4.96 margin, as that's a great move around the outside through into Club by Ben Willis on Costas Avram for P10. As there is Mitchell, and not too far ahead, there is McGlade in the number 78. But a great drive from a lot of these drivers, because now that things have sort of petered out in terms of aggression from the early phases of not just races 1 and 2, but here in race 3, it just goes to show that when you get into a rhythm, as Jack Nicholls again gets past Sean King, and King gets to run out of the corner a little bit easier. Oh! Nicholls gets a little tag on the right rear, but manages to save it and keeps the foot planted. As hopefully Chris Wilson doesn't get past. Well, Nicholls rejoins, and it's on one of the fastest parts of the circuit, and that's through Noble. And Nicholls rides the curbs through into the right at Goodwood. He's lost the position, and there is Toby Davis just behind. But Jack Nicholls still, credit where credit is due, from P23 to what could be P13. He's done a very, very good job, but very shortly we'll be heading to our race leader, who could be crossing the line any time shortly, as Tom Edmonds doing a really, really good job up front. Dan Kelton in the 89 Sancho Simsport in 2nd place, and Chris Butcher from Smile Power Racing rounding out the top 3. Oh, contact between Davis and Nicholls. That was very naughty indeed, through towards Club. But my goodness, we are on to the last lap. Edmonds still has a comfortable lead, as Davis and Nicholls, the war is far from over. And as they say, it ain't over until it's over. And Jack Nicholls manages to get a little bit of daylight for the moment, but Toby Davis says, right, let's get my fishing rod out, shall I, boys? I haven't had the best of luck in this race, but I'm going to get at least one more hook in before the end, and whether Jack Nicholls allows him to do that is another matter entirely.
I'm going to say Ben Willis has actually made me eat my hat. He made a move, stick on the outside of Club. All kudos to him as we see Tom Edwards come through Club chicane, flash the lights. A fully well-deserved win for Tom Edmonds in race 3 here at Thruxton.
Yeah, as we wait for Dan Kelt to cross the line. Meanwhile, the battle between Toby Davis and Jack Nicholls, and now looks like that's Daniel Slattery not too far behind in the MG. So Kelt will take 2nd position ahead of Sam Fowler from SRR Motorsport. But this is a little bit of a grandstand finale we're going to have, thanks to King's Racing's very own Jack Nicholls. As he locks up big time. Oh, that was not what Jack Nicholls wanted going into the approach into Club, and he smacks the tyre stack as well. Oh, poor old Jack Nicholls there. But Tom Edmonds takes the win here. It's an all-conquering rear-wheel drive affair for the Subarus for Frammy Autosport, with Kieran Shanks winning race 1 and 2, Tom Edmonds race 3, Dan Kell from Sancho Simsport rounds out the top 2, with Sam Fowler completing the top 3 for SRR Motorsport, as we see The number 19 of Sandro Ballesteros come around the final corner. It's across the line in 18th place. Chris Butcher takes 4th, but Tom Edmonds, that was a really, really good drive from the number 15. Dan Kell in 3rd place in the 89 Sancho Simsport. We'll get to the results in just a second. So Tom Edmonds from Frammy Autosport in the number 15 wins the race ahead of Dan Kell from Sancho Simsport in the 89. Sam Fowler in the leading SRR Motorsport 27, whilst Max Tad was an unfortunate retirement on lap number 12, takes P3. Chris Butcher in 4th ahead of Lewis McGlade from Sancho Simsport. Scott Mitchell coming back to finish 6th, having been in the fight for a podium position for the first half of the race. Kieran Shanks and Matt Richards round out the top 8 ahead of Ben Brown and Ben Willis from Camsport and Drake Racing, completing the top 10. Then it was Costas Avram in the FMP MG, number 26 and 11th ahead of the 23 of Camsport's Sean King. Then Chris Wilson made it another Camsport entry in the top 13 in the number 68. Ahead of Toby Davis in the 34, Daniel Slattery from Rage Racing in the 24, Mike Bell in the 5, ending up ahead of Jack Nichols, the number 29 Kings Racing, with Daniel Hyde from Cadan Casual Apex in the number 2, rounding out the top 18 positions, with both Sandro Ballesteros and Bradley Brockies being classified in 19th and 20th. Phil Morby would complete 12 laps to finish classified in 21st, ahead of Max Tad, who retired. It's Max Spooner from E-Team Brit and Aidan Millward that also retired here. So that concludes the action for the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship here at round 4 at Thruxton. I really can't say anything else about this evening, Phil. That was a doozy.
An absolute doozy. Yeah, I completely agree. That was a really cracking race. And again, the slightest change of luck, the slightest touch on a car, and it all changes within a moment. As we saw Scott Mitchell doing really well at the start, at the first part of the race, where he's fighting for podium positions and fighting hard, keeping it clean and defending as well. But the slightest piece of contact from Toby Davis, and it changed the top 8, the complexion of the top 8 behind Tom Edmonds, who just went off in the distance, kept it controlled, kept it calm, kept it clean, and as you say, has given a complete rear-wheel drive win sweep today with Thruxton. Another cracking race, really good stuff to see. Kudos to Jack Nichols for his drive through, even though he suffered a really terrible end to his race. He was really pushing through from the back of the grid, and it's just great to see that effort and that charge come through and show what they can do when they've got the red mist in front, shall we say.
Very true there, Phil. I think very shortly we're going to speak to our race winner, Tom Edmonds. We will be speaking to hopefully the top 3. So let's. What we'll then do is I'll now drop into the interview booth. Well, Tom Edmonds, well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, we met last year, I think it was Kartmania 2019, and obviously you're going to be competing later on this year, but to be the third, the second race winner today, and it's been a Frammy Autosport domination between you and Kieran. How do you feel?
To be honest, I feel quite happy. I think it was a good result for the points. And our car setup was really good for today, so I think it worked out in our hands.
Now, obviously, you're going to be back in competition not too far away. Obviously, I've had the pleasure of commentating on you in real life through Senior Road Tax. But are you looking forward to carrying on here in the VMO TCUK Championship?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next round. We'll have to wait and see what it holds, because racing. But it's all to play for. I think the points are very close at the moment. I'll have to wait and see how things go.
Well, congratulations, and we'll see you next week. Oh, I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Sorry, my apologies, at Alton Park.
See you later.
Thanks a lot, Tom. So, I don't know if we're going to be able to see if we can speak to the rest of our top 3. No, I think we might call that a day. So, Phil, just looking back at 3 rounds at Thruxton as we head to Alton Park in just a couple of weeks' time, your thoughts coming away from this evening's action?
It's been another great evening of action. It just sums it up quite nicely. There's been lots of good racing, lots of back racing, lots of close racing, and everyone has been pushing really hard. It's been a really good spectacle, really professional at times as well, like I was saying earlier, and I really cannot wait for the next 2 weeks. 2 weeks almost seems too long to me, to be honest. Surely we can do this tomorrow or something. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Alton Park in 2 weeks' time. That's going to be a great circuit to go to on the Island Circuit.
Well, for everyone watching on the relevant streams, thank you very much for tuning in. On behalf of myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Phil Kinch, your official VMO TCUK commentators, we bid you farewell here from the virtual Thruxton Motorsports Centre in Andover in Hampshire, and we head to the Alton Park Island Circuit in just 2 weeks' time, and that is the 21st of July, before we have our mid-season break before Snetterton we see in the latter part of August. Thank you for watching. Have a great week, whatever you're up to, and above all, stay healthy, stay safe, and look after one another. Good night.